Loneliness is not the monster you've been taught to run from. It is the final companion that walks with you when the world stops pretending. It is the space between the life you built for approval and the life you were meant to live. You say you feel alone. But what if this emptiness you fear is the very womb of your transformation? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But how could you ever become that if you spent your whole life being what others needed? What your parents expected? What the culture admired? What your friends could accept? What your fears could manage? You lost yourself in the process. And now, you feel hollow, not because you are broken, but because your true self has been buried under years of masks. That emptiness you call a loneliness is actually the absence of authenticity. You're not missing people. You're missing you. The truth is painful. You abandoned yourself to feel accepted by others. And now that you're alone, you feel betrayed. You're alone, you feel betrayed, but not by them. By the version of you that played small, stayed silent, and performed to survive. Jung called this the shadow, the rejected self, the hidden pain, the unspoken truth. It doesn't just contain your bad emotions. It holds your unlived life. And every time you ignore it, the shadow gets louder, and that voice you call anxiety, that feeling you name emptiness, that ache you feel at 3 a.m. isn't random, it's your soul calling you home. You've been running from this pain for years, but pain isn't the punishment. It's the punishment. It's the path. Jung didn't believe in avoiding suffering. He believed in going through it, because only through suffering do we uncover the gold hidden inside our wounds. The most terrifying thing, he said, is to accept oneself completely. But it is also the most liberating thing, true. Because when you stop trying to be accepted, you begin the real work of becoming real, of becoming whole, of becoming whole, of becoming you. So many people spend their lives distracted, chasing noise, connection, achievement, affection. But when silence comes, when the room goes still, they're terrified, not of the darkness outside them, but of what's whispering within. That's the moment of truth. That moment of raw, unbearable silence is when your real self finally steps forward without makeup, without applause, and asks, "Do you even know who I am?" That voice you ignore when you scroll, that ache you drink away, that flicker of memory you stuff down with laughter. It's all part of the you that got left behind when you were told it was safer to be likable than real. There's a reason loneliness hurts so much, too much. It's because your soul knows you weren't made to live half alive. And even though you try to fill your life with people, your nervous system remembers the wound, the rejection, the betrayal, the abandonment. It remembers the time you spoke your truth and were shamed. It remembers when you cried for help and were silenced, and so you started editing yourself. You became agreeable, polite, successful, maybe, but empty. Jung said, in each of us, there is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us. That dream self, the one you feel only in rare, private moments, is who you really are, and loneliness is what remains when you ignore that part of yourself for too long. We live in a culture that fears stillness, that numbs pain, that celebrates performance. But there is no wholeness without solitude, no healing without honest confrontation, no real love without knowing your own darkness. You want intimacy? Then meet your own pain first. Then meet your own pain first. Hold it, feel it, with it, with it. Because the child in you that felt invisible is still waiting for someone to look them in the eyes and say, "You're not too much." You never were, and that someone is you. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a state of the body. Loneliness is a wound in the soul. And yet, paradoxically, it is only when you embrace your aloneness that you begin to heal your loneliness. This is the paradox of individuation. To become whole, you must pass through the valley of separation, not from the world, but from the roles you've been playing in it. You must detach from false identities before you can return to life authentically. And yes, that path is excruciating. Because before you can build something true, you must allow the collapse of everything that is not. That's what loneliness is. A collapse of the life that was too tight, of the love that was never real, of the version of yourself that was never yours to begin with. You can't rush this process. You can't skip the pain. You must go into it. Jung wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your darkness contains your deepest truths, the resentment you've buried, the shame you carry. Through fear, the longings you've ignored for so long, you no longer recognize them. But if you stay with it, if you sit with the ache without numbing it, if you feel the absence without trying to replace it, you'll hear something. Not a scream, not a demand, but a quiet knowing. A voice that says, this pain has a purpose. Most people look for quick relief. A new relationship, a new distraction, a new dopamine hit. But loneliness cannot be healed by addition. It is healed by subtraction, by removing what is false, by unlearning what made you abandon yourself, by letting go of people, patterns, beliefs that were never rooted in truth. That is what it means to walk the lonely road. Not because you're broken, but because you've chosen not to pretend anymore. You see, this loneliness, it's not just sadness, it's a compass. It's trying to show you where you've betrayed yourself, where you've compromised your soul, to feel accepted, where you've stayed silent to avoid rejection. But silence, over time, becomes its own prison. A place where your real voice echoes unheard. Loneliness is what you feel when the soul knocks on your door, but you're too busy pleasing the world to answer it. And the longer you ignore it, the more disconnected you feel. Not just from others, but from life, from wonder, from joy, from meaning. Because here's the truth Jung taught us. When you ignore the inner world, the outer world becomes unbearable. So why do we run from this pain? Because the pain feels infinite. Because we were never taught how to hold it. Because our parents didn't know how to hold their own. So they taught us to hide ours. But the pain you inherited doesn't have to be your prison. It can become your teacher. Loneliness, when fully felt, is a doorway into the shadow, the place where your soul's forgotten parts wait. You will find the rejected child there, the silenced artist, the wounded healer, the broken lover, the true self buried under decades of pretending. They're all there, not to haunt you, but to reunite with you. Jung believed that true healing wasn't about becoming someone new, but reclaiming all the parts of yourself you had to leave behind just to survive. And here's the terrifying beauty of this journey. No one can walk it for you. No one can give you the map. Because the map is written in your suffering, and only you can read it. Loneliness is not an error in your story, it's a chapter of awakening. When the friends disappear, when the phone goes quiet, when the world feels cold, that's when the real warmth begins. Because that's when you're forced to sit beside the fire of your own soul. So if you find yourself alone tonight, not knowing where your life is going, questioning your worth, your past, your future, don't run. Sit with it. Not because it's easy, but because this is where the real you begins. Not in the crowd, not in the applause, not in the love you beg for, but in the silence you dared to face. In the mirror, you stopped avoiding, and in the soul you finally chose to hear. You are not broken, you are becoming, and this loneliness, it isn't your punishment, it's the sacred beginning, the sacred call, to finally return home to yourself. Your loneliness isn't the end of your story, it's the door to the part of you that was never lost, only waiting.